Also coming up, we're going to speak with Congressman Louis Gohmert. We have Katie Kieffer, who's going to be joining us about this book, too. Barack Obama's War on Millennials and One Woman's Case for Hope. Now, I kind of feel bad for the millennial generation because I remember the discussion by a number of economists saying that this generation, the millennial generation, this is going to be the first generation hit with a lower expectation of quality of life in terms of job opportunity, in terms of economic freedom, free enterprise, more so than any other generation before them has experienced. They're kind of getting the shaft, so to speak. They're going to be paying higher in healthcare costs. They're going to be paying a lot more for their education, higher education, because this bubble has so inflated. It kind of makes, I feel bad for millennials, but then I look at the polls and I look and see how millennials are polling. Millennials, in terms of Gallup, I think that there was one with Rasmussen as well, showing the millennial generation is actually trending a little bit more conservative than the generations before it. And I think it's because they're waking up. And books like this is what is proof of that. Katie Kieffer is author of Let Me Be Clear, Barack Obama's War on Millennials, and One Woman's Case for Hope. Katie, good afternoon. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me on, Dana.
So you're not supposed to exist. That was my first thought when I saw this book because, as you know, all conservatives are old white men, Katie, and you kind of break the mold with this a little bit. Is it true what I've been reading with some of these polls? Do you feel as though your generation is perhaps leaning a little bit more conservative because they see what the older generations are experiencing that you all are going to have to pay for?
Yes, I think you're right, Dana, and this is great news for anyone who's looking to reach out to this all-important millennial generation. We're 95 million strong, and we can determine the future of these upcoming elections. So there are indications, and I've spent about 2 years looking into this research, which goes into this book, Let Me Be Clear, and it's very clear that the millennial generation is fiscally conservative and socially libertarian. So we're very open to hearing ideas. There's also a new study that came out from Deloitte, and they looked at the millennial generation, and they found that 70% of millennials aspire to become entrepreneurs. And so that's one thing that using my business experience and research, really promote in this book is let's encourage young people to play to that desire that they already have and become the next Steve Jobs, and also let's encourage our politicians to unleash policies that are going to promote that as well.
And that goes completely against the narrative that you also address in your book as well, that millennials are so often dismissed as these like lazy navel gazers. They don't care about anything else but themselves and Xbox. Not true, you say?
No, that's not true, and we're intelligent individuals. It's just that unfortunately the media has not been providing us with the best of information, as well as we have an administration, as I know that the Blaze has been drawing a great deal of attention to this, that has shut down the opposite side, using the IRS to shut down, for example, the Tea Party groups. And so now more than ever we need young people to speak up, and I'm trying to be a voice really for my generation and to say, here are the facts, almost like a best friend or a sister, and say, I've spent 2 years researching this. Here are the facts. Obama's socialistic policies haven't worked, and there is a better path, and here it is. For example, I interviewed close to 300 doctors and surgeons and got their free market solutions for providing affordable and high-quality insurance for all individuals. There are options, and we just aren't hearing about them as a generation. Yeah.
What did you think of the president's, you mentioned healthcare, what did you think of his advertising? I know Colorado, they came out with their health exchange, came out with the bro-choice ads, and then there were the ads of the young women who were drinking wine while at the gym talking about their free birth control. That's the way the administration views millennials, which seems offensive. I'm sure you took offense to that.
Yes, this administration realizes, I think, that socialistic policies will not allow us to advance. So instead of putting out, hey, why don't you become an entrepreneur, they have to promote the only thing, they have to make it look cool to stay at home with your parents. They have to make it look cool or somehow fulfilling to be a pajama boy, when no millennial genuinely aspires to that, and many of them are in that situation against their will. They've been applying for jobs all the time. So you can tell that they're trying to make these socialistic policies seem appealing by making the only thing that's achievable within those policies attractive.
You also mentioned in your book that the president was very aggressive in the way that he went out to court millennials for the vote, and it seemed to maybe work in 2008, but then 2012 we noticed a huge drop-off with millennial voters, and now it seems as though millennials, who, as you were mentioning, you know, they're very fiscally conservative, socially liberal, they're all about individual liberty, and they seem to be to trend a little bit independent. I don't think that the aggressive action worked as well in 2012. Explain a little bit about this from your perspective, what you have seen with this.
Yes, what I noticed is, looking back at the polls, we found that going into the 2012 elections, the Barack Obama administration could clearly see that there was a drop-off. Young people could see his promises aren't coming true. We have all this student debt. Over 15% of us are unemployed. Over a third of us are living at home with their parents. And they could see, going by the polls, that they weren't going to get that turnout that they needed from those swing voters. And so what they did was they ramped up the lies. They said, we're going to provide you with free health care insurance. If you vote for us, and they really push that student loan, those student loan promises. If you vote for me, you're not going to have any student loan debt. And now what we're seeing is that we have a historic level of student loan debt. And normally in a healthy economy, young people with student loan debt are the ones who have mortgages and car loans. And for the first time in history, you are less likely to have a mortgage or a car loan if you have student loan debt.
How do you think that millennials are going to go in 2016, Katie?
Yes, the latest Harvard poll on this shows that millennials have lost a huge amount of faith in the federal government, particularly in the presidency, which is not surprising, but at least it's good news in the sense that they see that there's a problem. However, they say that they're not going to come out for the midterms, and that they're not going to come out in high numbers either for the presidential election. If they do, most of them, but it's a slim majority, say that they're going to come out for Hillary Clinton. And so because of that, I think, and because there's another poll out that says that 63% say that they think that the American dream is impossible to achieve, that's why this message, which is in this book, Let Me Be Clear, which shows it is possible to achieve the American dream if we unleash a new set of free market policies, is so important for Republicans, for independents, for libertarians to get out there before the midterms and the presidential elections, because we are going to be able to tap into these voters who are desperately seeking an answer. Right.
A last question for you. If it's not Hillary, do you think that the populist message of Elizabeth Warren would perhaps sway more millennials towards her in 2016?
I don't see millennials going towards Elizabeth Warren, honestly. She doesn't seem like a very passionate, she doesn't have the passion that Obama had. But I could see, millennials respond to transparency, consistency, and passion. And Obama put a facade up of those. I could see them going towards Rand Paul, though, but we just have to get more education, truth, solutions, hope out there.
And it's still a little early, though. We'll see. Katie, thank you so much. Your great book, Let Me Be Clear, Barack Obama's War on Millennials and One Woman's Case for Hope. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you, Dana.
All right, folks, much more ahead. Don't go anywhere.